Welcome to the Chronic Spoonful podcast, where we discuss real life with real chronic illness. Each week, we'll cover an aspect of real life spoonie living and what that can mean for different chronic illnesses. We hope this will be a place you can go for updated spoonie info and where you'll find humor, because, we're a little crazy, important information, and community. As a disclaimer, we just want to remind you that yes, we'll be talking about chronic illness and health information, but we are not your doctor. Everyone's chronic illness is different, and we are absolutely not MDs, so we are not qualified to give you medical advice. We're going to tell you unequivocally to discuss anything we talk about on this podcast with your doctor. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Hope you all had a good couple weeks. We are so sorry for missing last week. Nicole had her third shot.
I did. I had my third COVID vaccine, and this one was a little rough.
It was. We were texting every day, and Nicole's like, I don't feel good.
I'm like, I still don't feel great. It kind of like ignited a little flare. So the flare has been the issue. But I absolutely do not regret getting it. I'm glad that I did. So I am feeling better, but it was rough for a couple days.
It was, but you know what? Hopefully that means you're getting an immune response, which
I hope so. I mean, there's no way to tell, unfortunately, but I mean, he's just hoping that it'll give me some protection.
Yeah, I'm hoping it gives you some protection.
Oh my! I really, with the 150,000 variants that seem to be out there, it's like, oh my gosh,
new variant C12, the E7003, whatever it is now. I can't keep track anymore.
Oh my gosh! You said the MU, the variant? Yeah, right. The MU. Yeah. Oh my God! I read that and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be in the house till I'm 80. That's how I feel.
Which is why I spend a lot of money buying craft stuff, because my house is going to be like, hi, Kelly, how'd you decorate your house? And be like, crafts. It's all crafts.
It's all crafts. Even the couch, it's crafts. It was made from epoxy.
Oh my gosh, you guys, it's going to be so bad if we have to stay in the house anymore.
It really is, because Kelly makes something and then I'm like, oh, I should do that too. And now we both spent money.
I don't have money to spend, guys. So yeah, it's been an interesting couple weeks. Nicole's feeling a little bit better. So we are, we're just kind of plugging along, but this is the life with chronic illness, you guys. This is how things go. And I think, the rule of podcasting is you should have episodes in the bank to put on if you're not feeling well, blah, blah, blah. But I think one of the things we wanted to do as podcasters of a chronic illness podcast is be real about it. Mm-hmm. And we want to be real about, this is how life is. So if we aren't feeling up to par, we are going to either postpone an episode by a day or two, or it's going to be a week where we might not have an episode. And because that's what life is for us. That's how life is for us. And this was one of those weeks that things were just bad, and I'm not going to, necessarily do an episode by myself because I talk too much as it is. You guys don't need to hear me droning on for an hour. But yeah, I think it's really important that everybody understand that this is real life with, we say it in the motto, but it's real life with real chronic illness. And this is really what we want to do, to show that. And if we were to pull out a podcast that we had recorded 4 weeks ago with someone, that's not really showing real life. It's just not. So, we're glad you guys are sticking with us and hanging out with us. And we appreciate that. And Nicole appreciates all the well wishes she got.
Yes, I do. Thank you. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, because it's rough sometimes, you guys, and you all know that.
It really is.
But that's kind of what's new and noteworthy with us. I don't have anything new and noteworthy. Just a bunch of fun doctor's appointments this week. Woo woo!
Yay!
And then, so we're going to talk about more that's new and noteworthy this week in a very special episode. because there's a big thing that happened this past week, and it's going to be a controversial topic. So we just want to kind of get that started. And we're going to talk about the Texas abortion law. And that's what this entire episode is going to be about. And I'm going to preface this, we're going to preface this by saying this is not going to be a debate on abortion itself. We are not, that's not what this is. That's not what our podcast is about. That's not what this is about. This is not to say, you know, are you pro-life? Are you pro-choice? Blah, 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 blah. Because you end up down a rabbit hole that just doesn't work for this podcast that way. And we don't want that debate here because it hurts us. It hurts you. What we want to talk about today, though, is how this law could impact people with chronic illness, what it means for Spoonies, how it could impact Spoonies, because it can actually have a big impact on people with chronic illness and their pregnancies if something were to happen. And so we want to make sure everybody understands the law and understands what it could mean for them if they live in Texas or one of the states that's thinking about adopting the law similar to Texas. And there are some states that are thinking about this. So we kind of want to go into that. So I am going to also say that if you are seriously pro-life, like deep down, digging in the trenches of pro-life, like abortion, bad, never, 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 it's never okay. And, you know, we're probably going to say some things that might be upsetting to you. So I am going to preface with that. And it might be a little offensive just because we might get into some medical information that you're not going to agree with. This is not a judgment at all of your beliefs. We're just going to let you know that now, because we don't want you to feel like we're placing that judgment on you. We're not. Everybody has a right to what they want to believe. We are an open environment here. We believe that people have a right to believe what they want to believe. There's not a judgment in anything in our world. No judgment.
None.
So we just want people to have the facts about this law. We want people to have the facts about what is happening with their bodies and what the law could mean for them. So I just want that anyone who is so deep into pro-life that if they are going to get offended, to know that there might be some things that are very upsetting. So I want you to understand that we're not placing judgment on anything. And we're also not placing judgment on the other side either. This is just to have a conversation about it. And that's, you know, and that's kind of what we're about. But we're not getting into the debate, and we're not going to dive into the debate of whether pro-life or pro-choice is right or wrong. And by the way, if that comes up in the comments on our Facebook page, on our Instagram, we will not dive into the debate. That's not what we're here for either. We will answer questions about, you know, things we talk about on the show, but we're not going to dive into whether pro-life or pro-choice is right or wrong. Does that I hope that makes sense to everybody, because again, it goes down a rabbit hole of politics and life choices that we're not here to necessarily preach about. It's kind of my long lecture at the beginning of this episode. Sorry, everybody. And which is probably why I kind of losing my voice at the start.
Could be.
Sip my water. Ooh.
Good choice.
Stay hydrated, everyone. First piece of advice on the episode, stay hydrated. So let's kind of dive into the law first, I think, of what was passed and that kind of what's actually happened in Texas. The law that was passed in Texas is kind of a loophole that some lawmakers in Texas found to restrict abortions. Plain and simple, this is a loophole. it's it is, as I like to term it, it's a vigilante law. So it puts the lawmaking ability on private citizens versus the government itself. What can happen is if a person believes that a woman has had an abortion or a doctor has performed an abortion, they can sue them in court and receive up to $10,000 if it is proven that the doctor performed or a person received an abortion. That's it. That's just very simply put. It has taken the government out of, per se, the government out of what they call like dictating abortion law, which they have been trying to pass for a very long time, of like, when can you stop women from having abortions? When can you dictate, how long can you dictate that a woman is eligible to have an abortion? Well, the other part of this is they can only accuse the person of having an abortion after 6 weeks or when there's a heartbeat. So once a heartbeat is detected, a person cannot have an abortion. So you could technically have an abortion, a legal abortion, up until the point that a heartbeat is detected. So that's kind of the line in the sand that they drew. So it's kind of, they've always said they wanted to pass a heartbeat law, but they could never get the law to fully pass. This is their way around the heartbeat law. So it puts the onus on private citizens to accuse other private citizens of abortions. The issue here is it does create an atmosphere of vigilante justice, or some people have equated this to the Salem witch trials. It opens the door for a lot of questionable accusations. It opens the door for tying up the courts in frivolous lawsuits, which our court system is already tied up in a lot of frivolous lawsuits, which ties the court up when we need real lawsuits to be heard. Like there's some lawsuits out there that are taking decades to go through and be heard, which actually hurts a lot of people with chronic illness that have legitimate medical lawsuits that need to be heard. And now our lawsuits are going to take even longer. I mean, we have a ton of us have major violation. We've been violated many times by doctors and medical organizations, and we have real reasons for suing. And now we're going to be tied up even more because of these type of lawsuits. So you have to consider that also, because there are people that are going to be accusing other people. They just believe so much in being quote unquote pro-life that they will be sitting there waiting to accuse these women and doctors of these abortions. It's just going to happen.
If someone gets mad at their neighbor, and they start having an argument, the easiest thing to do would be to report this. And this is going to tie up a whole lot of resources investigating if this did or did not happen.
Now, mind you, it already has started to fail. So the website that they have put up for accusing people of this has already been shut down several times because people have reported, they call it like the K-pop movement, because I don't know if many people follow Twitter, but whenever a weird topic comes up on Twitter, like a weird hashtag, that's kind of bad, or the K-pop movement will overtake it and just start posting a bunch of K-pop videos, pictures of K-pop people like BTS and all this stuff, and take over the hashtag. It's really a lot of fun if you guys ever like spend a lot of time on Twitter, how these people take over these hashtags. And so people basically on the left have taken over the website. And so they'll put in names like, they'll just put in random people's names.
Yeah.
The governor's name, they'll put in certain legislators' names that they don't like, and they'll just keep reporting this. And they've crashed the website so many times that they've had to take it down. So it's not working quite as well as they wanted it to. And there's some flaws in their system that they haven't figured out yet. That being said, eventually they're going to figure out their flaws in their system. So, it'll happen. But the key is it still allows for people to make false accusations against other people.
Mm-hmm.
What we have some concerns with, though, are people, first of all, tying up the court system when we have legitimate cases. The second part is people already don't understand chronic illness, and they definitely don't understand chronic illness and pregnancy. So now you have, actually, people just don't understand pregnancy either. So there's that. So now you have people who are like, oh, well, so-and-so isn't pregnant anymore. She must have had an abortion. When actually she may have had a spontaneous abortion, which is also known as a miscarriage.
Mm-hmm.
Or what if someone sees a piece of paper on your table and it says spontaneous abortion?
And they get confused and think that it is an actual, abortion that you decided to go in and have. A lot of people don't understand medically, we call them spontaneous abortions when someone miscarries.
Correct. So yeah, the medical term for a miscarriage is a spontaneous abortion. So that is how it will be written in your chart, which, by the way, total HIPAA violation for them to see that. By the way, that's also a concern about this law, are HIPAA violations, because really another private citizen should not have access to your medical records at all or know your medical history at all. So there's that question too about this, but that's another thing. However, so let's say this person knew that you were pregnant. Now you're not pregnant. They may also not have known about your chronic illness in relation to your pregnancy. When you have a chronic illness, a lot of times you end up in the category of a high-risk pregnancy. And when you have high-risk pregnancy, you can have a perfectly normal pregnancy, by the way, even if you're high risk, even if you have a chronic illness, it is likely you're going to have a perfectly normal pregnancy, because you're going to be working with your doctors, you're going to be working with everybody to make sure you get through your pregnancy just fine. So we are not talking about huge populations of people and this happening to. We are talking about, though, I don't know how to put this nicely, Nicole. I guess I'm going to say mostly the ignorant among us, the people who don't want to be knowledgeable, the people who don't spend the time understanding pregnancy or chronic illness, or how medications affect our bodies,
mm-hmm.
or treatments affect our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about that population. We're talking about people, or even the hyper-focused
mm-hmm.
on abortion, the people who are super hyper-focused on it. We're talking about these populations of people, right? So they're not going to take the time to understand, and they're going to make accusations that are just wrong, because, of people who are chronically ill, 90% of them are taking a type of medication. And 70% of them are taking a prescription medication. And those medications can cause, and you guys, I'm not trying to scare you guys, because really they're not insanely high percentages.
No.
But they can cause premature birth defects. They can cause your baby to be addicted to the medication. They can cause developmental disabilities. So they can cause things to happen with the baby in utero. Some of our chronic illnesses can actually cause the baby to have some genetic, or like some of our illnesses can cause the baby to have genetic syndromes in utero, chromosomal abnormalities. Oh, I'm doing well speaking. Abnormalities, structural anomalies.
Yes.
Actually, women with chronic illness are more likely to give birth to twins. And sometimes that puts a huge stress on the body, and our bodies can't handle it. When you have heart disease, lupus has
kidney disease.
Kidney
mm-hmm.
disease.
Diabetes.
Some thyroid disorders, in certain infections that we get. Women, like, there might be higher incidences of preeclampsia, which some of you don't know what that is, but it's a disorder you can get during pregnancy. There's things that can happen at a little higher rate than women who are healthy. We're talking usually about a 2 to 3% higher rate than healthy women, which sounds like a really small percentage, but when you're talking about millions of women, it's
right.
Your number, right?
Exactly.
So miscarriage can really happen. Also, these structural and genetic abnormalities can happen, and decisions sometimes have to be made between life or death. And for us, that can be very difficult. Sometimes here's another thing that can happen. When you're pregnant, doctors tend to do like some more examinations, especially when you have a chronic illness, and they sometimes will find cancers that you didn't know you had. Again, I'm like making really scary scenarios, so I'm sorry. Like, I keep talking about all these scary things, guys, and I'm not trying to scare anybody. These are small percentages of people.
Very small.
But they'll have to give you chemo. And there's a certain window where they can give you chemo, they have to stop, and then they give you chemo again, but that can also affect the baby. You guys, all of these things are things that, again, we bear a different burden when we have chronic illnesses. We just do. We just bear different burdens. We have different decisions that we have to make. This law at 6 weeks, a lot of times you don't even know you're pregnant. You're not getting your amniocentesis yet. You're not getting your scans yet. You're not checking for genetic disorders. You're not seeing what's happening with the baby in utero, because like they maybe just got a heartbeat.
Sometimes it's even hard to see when you're only 6 weeks pregnant. It's hard to see that there's actually a baby in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, because it's so small, sometimes it's missed.
Exactly. And then in some women, unfortunately, the baby dies in utero. And you have to actually perform an abortion to get the baby out, which is horrible, guys. I know people that's happened to. I know people that's happened to late term. It's horrific. And I don't wish that on any person ever in their lifetime, because it's a devastating thing. By the way, that's fine in Texas state law. There's no heartbeat, guys. But what if someone misinterprets that and decides to sue you? Now you have the trauma of that, plus having to go through a lawsuit. And this is the other side of it. And this is where my issue is with the law. Because someone can accuse you and falsely accuse you of getting an abortion because they don't understand the law. You've now had a miscarriage or something. You're devastated emotionally. You're dealing with your chronic illness emotionally. And now you have to go through a lawsuit. And you guys, it very much upsets me. I'm trying to keep my emotions out of this, but this part really gets to me, because this is not a pro-life or pro-choice side of it. This is a humans being terrible humans side of it.
Absolutely.
Because I know people, most women have known other women who've had a miscarriage, and they know the emotional toll that this takes on another person. But there are just terrible people in the world. And we deal with so much as Spoonies, and we deal with so much. We carry so much burden, you guys, to add in a lawsuit on top of that because someone doesn't understand our chronic illness. It's just really hard. It's hard for me.
You look at, that there is no, I feel like if this was a strictly pro-life law, that they would have looked at men being accountable. It takes two to tango. There's no accountability for men in this. It's like saying the burden is on women strictly. Like, you got pregnant by yourself, you know, this is your fault. So we're going to do this because you are a woman. You know, it doesn't make any sense. The law just doesn't make any sense.
It also doesn't help anybody if they have the baby. It doesn't help anybody if there is a developmental disability, if there is a genetic abnormality, if, you know, and once the baby is born, or if the baby is born prematurely, those hospital bills, and we all know about hospital bills, right? It's like,
oh my gosh,
they know how much they cost.
Yes.
It's not helping people with the hospital bills if these babies are born prematurely and have to spend a huge amount of time in NICU. It's not dealing with maternal health, which is a huge thing for us, because with chronic illnesses, maternal health, we have to go through a lot more doctor's appointments because we're high risk. We have to go through, you know, a lot. We're meeting with our, you know, OB more often. We're meeting with, you know, probably whatever other doctors we have to see more often, because we're constantly being checked for the risk to our other bodily functions, whatever disease you may have.
Yeah.
Like with EDS, you know, you're talking about connective tissue not working. There's risks to having a baby in that. When you have lupus, there's risks to the kidneys.
Oh, there's risk to everything, the heart, the lungs. I mean,
right.
And pregnancy is very, very hard on the body. That is why it's encouraged that even a year or two before you want to get pregnant, you really get as healthy as possible.
Correct. Usually, like with a chronic illness, you want to try and plan for it.
Yes.
It doesn't always happen though, guys.
It doesn't.
It doesn't always happen. And that's life, and how life goes. And, you know, I think a lot of people think this law, you know, I think they think like a lot of times, like it's just single women who have these issues, but it's not. It's married couples.
It is.
This takes into no account rape or incest. This takes into no account children who've been abused. It just doesn't. It doesn't cover everything that needs to be covered, even from a pro-life standpoint. It just doesn't cover everything. And I mean, the biggest issue for me is the vigilante side of it, and the you know, I have a real issue with the vigilantism side of it.
I have a huge issue with the fact that there's no, you know, they're okay with this, that if a 13-year-old gets raped or his father been molesting them or whatever, they have to have that baby.
Yeah.
So I don't think people understand how much it costs to have a baby that is developmentally delayed or has an anomaly or is severely disabled in any way. I took care of children like this, and it is very expensive and it is extremely hard on the parents. But being a 13-year-old and facing that, you know, I mean, I can't imagine. That's horrific.
You're not capable of facing that.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, there's a lot of flaws to this particular law. No matter which way you look at this, it is looking very, it's a narrow focus. It's very narrow focused. It's very like, it's like they got telescopic and they just looked at it, went through one little lens. And I have a lot of issues with it. You know, I'm trying not to like put too much pro-choice into this. I'm trying to take that out of it. And I'm trying to look at this like from if I really wanted to write this law properly, what would I do?
Yeah.
And it's not doing as much to protect women as they think it's trying to do, because, you know, we have a terrible maternal mortality rate in this country, and Texas has a really bad one. But overall in this country, we should have a great mortality rate in this country, and it is pretty horrific.
It really is.
You know, of all the like Western modern nations, this should not be an issue for us, and it is. And it's even worse in people of color. In populations of color, it's even worse, which is like even more ridiculous.
Much worse.
So, and then you add in chronic illness on top of that. It's this, law is just, it's very frustrating. And I think that's why we wanted to talk about it, because with the prescriptions we're taking, with the treatments we have, with the chronic illnesses we have, this is a very troublesome law for us as Spoonies. We're not going to sugarcoat this.
No.
I'm sorry to all the pro-life people out there who are just celebrating today and this week. We know we are all for the sanctity of life, you guys. We get it. We get why people want to protect the fetus. We do. But this law is going to hurt women. This law is going to hurt people with chronic illnesses beyond pregnancy. It's going to hurt everybody with a chronic illness.
Yes,
it's going to hurt beyond that. It's not just women. It's going to hurt men. It's going to hurt us in the legal system. It's going to hurt us in the medical system. This law sets a precedent in the legal system that goes beyond abortion.
Mm-hmm. There are no provisions for these children once they're born.
Yeah,
there are no additional provisions.
It sets a legal precedent for other things too.
It does.
The vigilantism side of this sets a legal precedent that goes so far beyond this.
Oh yeah.
So this law is just very troublesome overall. But for Spoonies, we just need to be very careful. And there are websites, just so you guys know, and that you can go to if you do need help with your pregnancy. We will post it in the comments. Again, apologies to the pro-life people, but we are going to post it because there are organizations that will help people take care of what they need to take care of safely, because that's the other side of it. We do not want anyone hurting themselves because they think they can't get help, guys. We just don't. We don't want anyone to feel like they have to go to a back alley and get this taken care of, or hide it, and have some random person perform an abortion, or take a random pill that they think is going to work, that's going to send their body into some sort of shock or anything. Don't do that. There are organizations out there that are willing to help you. Use them, go to them, because please don't hurt yourself in this process. Please don't. So we will post that link also, because these organizations are willing to help anyone, and they are very clear, anyone who needs assistance. So yeah, you guys, it's a short episode today. This is a very controversial topic. Again, not getting into the debate whether abortion is right or wrong. We're not getting into that. We just wanted people to know about the law, the impact it can have on Spoonies. We know we kind of interjected our frustration a little bit into this. Know that we care about all of you, no matter which side of the aisle you sit on. We honor your opinions. We honor your thoughts. We can disagree with you. We still care about you. And honestly, if you're on the other side and you have organizations that are willing to help, please put links to that in our comments, because if you have organizations that are willing to help, that are on the, pro-life side, that are willing to give financial assistance to people who don't want to have abortions, that are willing to help them through and help them do what they need to do, we'll take those links too.
Yeah.
Because
if you have people that are willing to take people
listening that are like, I don't want to have an abortion, but I don't have an outlet.
Right.
I don't know what to do. You know what? We'll take those links too, because we think everybody needs to be honored. Everybody needs to be honored in this situation.
Absolutely.
So share those with us too. We honor everybody's opinion. We love you all. Again, difficult topic, difficult day, difficult week. Just have a good week, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Take care of yourselves this week and be healthy. All right, you guys. All right. And we'll talk next week.
Thanks for listening.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.